This short video will tell you and show you the two parts that make up a sentence. And you have to have both parts or you do not have a complete sentence. There are many parts to a bicycle, but lucky for you, there are only two big parts to a sentence. The first part of a sentence we might call the naming part, because it names who or what the sentence is about. So I'll read this with you. Every sentence has a naming part. Part 1. The naming part tells who or what the sentence is about. Now we have 3 examples. The dog, that airplane, and Jim. Those are the naming parts. And the rest of the sentence tells what those people or things do, what kind of action they do. So the first part is the naming part of the sentence. Now let's take a look at the second part. Every sentence has a naming part, that's the first part, and an action part. The action part is the second part. So let's skip down to where the green arrow points to number 2. The action part tells something about the naming part. The action part can tell what the naming part does. It can also tell what the naming part is like. So let's look at our 3 examples. We are going to focus on the second part of the sentence. Eats a bone, is big, is happy. So those are the second part of a sentence. And when you put the first part and the second part together, then and only then do you have a complete sentence. The dog eats a bone. That airplane is big. Jim is happy. Those are the complete sentences made up of the 2 parts. Here is another sentence. The dogs bark. So the naming part tells us who or what. That's the dogs. And the action part tells us what they do. They bark. Here's another sentence. The dogs eat. The naming part is the dogs, and the action part is the eat. The dogs eat. And here is another sentence. Dogs, that's the naming part, eat and dance. That's the action part. Dogs eat and dance. 2 parts make a complete sentence. I think you get the idea, right? Okay, so let's put one more layer on this concept of a sentence. The who and what part, those words are in a category called nouns. So here's an example. Apple. Apple is a noun. It's a thing. An action, those are words that go in the category called verbs. Drops, that's a verb. So let's put the 2 parts together. Apple is the noun, drop is the verb. The apple drops. The apple drops off the tree. Okay, you can see how I color-coded them, right? In both sentences, the apple is the first part. In the first sentence, the second part is just the verb drops. And in the second sentence, I added more. Drops off the tree. But you separate the parts in the same way. The first part tells who or what, and that's your noun. And the second part is going to tell you action that noun takes. Drops off the tree. That's the second part of a complete sentence. You need both parts. And to make it even easier to understand, the first part is going to have some kind of a noun in it. Who or what. It could be Fairmont School, Miss Marshall, the dog, the ball. Those are all nouns. They're people, things, places. Those are all nouns. And the second part will have some kind of a verb that tells us what the noun is doing or thinking or what it looks like. So those are the two big parts. Let's do a little practice with this. Noun plus verb makes a sentence. So on the left side under the word noun, I have nouns: boy, girl, ball, drawing, cat. And under the word verb, I have verbs: purr, bounces, plays, is. Those are all verbs. So let's connect them together and make some sentences. Noun plus a verb equals a complete sentence. Well, this is how I chose to put the nouns and the verbs together. Number 1, the boy plays baseball, period. Number 2, the girl plays soccer, period. Number 3, the ball bounces, period. Number 4, my drawing is colorful, period. Number 5, his cat purrs, period. You see how easy that was? These are all complete sentences because they have both parts. The part that names something and the part that tells what that something is doing. And here's the final equation to remember a sentence. A noun plus a verb equals a complete sentence. If you don't have the noun in part 1 and you only have the verb, now you don't have a sentence. And if you only have part 2, the verb, but you don't have the noun, not a complete sentence.